Welcome, friends, to this week's Peerity Hangout, where we come together each week to discuss the latest workings of Peerity and other crypto news. Today we're joined by sirlunchthehost and also have Peerity's own CTO, Brenn here to discuss a couple different things going on within Peerity, so sit back and enjoy.
Yo, what's up, everyone? My name is Black Crypto Hippie, and welcome to the Peerity Hangout. If it's morning, evening, or noon, it doesn't matter. It's time to wake up, it's time to get up, and it's time to talk about Peerity. We got Brenn in here. Hello, Brenn. Bows, how are you doing today?
Hello. sirlunchthehost.
Hi. Now, I know that you've made it here to update us with some good old information, something that we can just gnaw and feel good about. Are you ready?
Yeah. Yes, I am. So we have an internal test of the UI for Peerity that is now up for our internal alpha testing. We're going to keep making visual changes, but the visual design is done and it looks fantastic. That's been turned into like HTML and JavaScript and stuff. And we are also finishing interviews with some developers who are going to help in the back end. So we've been looking at different technological choices for that for a while. Like we want to be able to scale the whole app and to make it as peer-to-peer as possible. And there's a number of technologies that can do that, but blockchain has, issues with performance if you're trying to make it do too many things. So we were looking at like all the different available options, and we finally found some that we liked. So we've at least for the time being settled on those, and we've started interviewing developers, and we'll probably make a hire in the next week. So that'll be good. So there'll be a lot more progress being made. That'll be for stuff for people to see and play with after that, because we'll get to the point where we have a usable app for people to begin to try out. So that's some huge news. The other thing that is at the hyper experimental stage right now, but should be really exciting to people, is we are considering, and I'm writing up the spec for a new contract language for blockchains. So those who know Ethereum and have ever tried to program in Solidity, it's not the most human friendly of languages, right? Like the whole premise of smart contracts is that people can deal with each other without a trusted authority, right? You following me so far, Sir Lunch?
Yep, I'm with you so far, brother.
Yep. But here's the thing: if you have to be a space wizard, ninja computer programmer to know what that contract's going to do, then you don't have that, right? You have to go to the space wizards and say, "Dear mighty space wizards, what the fuck does this mean?"
Exactly. and sometimes space wizards don't have time.
Right. They don't have time and they make mistakes. And, because there was all those big Ethereum hacks last week. And that's actually what inspired me to really dive into how that happened, because the Peerity wallet, and I have a Peerity wallet. I didn't have anything in it, thank goodness. But I have, the Peerity wallet was written by absolute experts, and it still got hacked. It still had problems. And we're working on releasing an Ethereum token, and I was working on that code, and I was like, man, there are so many gotchas with Ethereum. I'm surprised people don't get hacked every week. And then of course that week everyone's getting hacked, right? So I'm like, man, I'm glad I was careful when I was diving into this and being really, really thorough. So, but it got me thinking. It's on a broader scale, if you're going to have smart contracts, they have to be more like normal contracts, and that a normal person can read them, and at least they don't have to be perfect. It would help if they're a lawyer, but in an ideal sense, they know what they're agreeing to, right? They can make a relatively intelligent choice in saying, okay, this looks like it does the following, and be relatively sure that they're correct-ish, right?
So basically it's because I've kind of wondered about contracts and smart contracts, and I'm like, yo, are they going to be so smart that regular people who are getting into crypto can understand them? So I understand the appeal of making a contract an actual just contract that people can recognize and identify right off the bat, and there's things that they can identify within that contract,
exactly.
Working, what the pay is, because of course there's going to be fine print and details that they're not really gonna understand, but there's always like the power, what needs to be done that always
Exactly.
pointed out.
So what I've done is I've broken down contracts and code, because there's a book with writing code right now where you have API definitions and you're basically writing contracts anyway. So you're writing contracts between one programmer who's going to try to write code to talk to another piece of code. And what they do is they say, you know what, here's what I'm expecting and here's what you'll get back, right? And they specify it. And it's actually relatively simple. They don't tell you how it happens. They tell you what happens, right? But the way Solidity is written is it tells you how things happen and you have to figure out what that actually means, which is not what humans want. Humans want to know what the outcome will be. They don't really necessarily care about the fine there, even though the devil's often in the details. But like on a broad scale, want to know if I do X, I'll get Y, right? And if I don't do X, I'll get Z.
Exactly.
And how that's calculated be the next step, right? Like do with that. But they need to start from that broad scale. It needs to be like big stuff first. And so I spent a very long plane flight. I had like 12 hours banging out, I think it's like 8 or 9 pages now, like this kind of first draft of what that would look like as a programming language, where a contract is like, sort of like Solidity is a top level thing, but it's actually a contract. It has a set of definitions. It has a set of clauses. It has a set of transactions, right? It has a set of conditions. And you have to name all of these things. And you have to say, I expect to get a message that looks like this, right? And if I get this message, I'll do the following, right? I will trigger this transaction. So you can read it that if I get this message, I'll do this transaction. And if it succeeds, you'll get this thing back, right? And then the details are actually written elsewhere. Just, you can just tell where it goes to get the details, but you can scan this contract file and see the broad scale first. And then you can say, well, how is this calculated? And there's a section just called calculations where they're all named. And there's a bunch of rules and restrictions on what you can put there, right? So it makes you structure contracts so that it's followable by a human, right?
So more or less, it's like, sorry to cut you off, but it's kind of like what it sounds to me is like a better user interface for smart contracts, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's more human readable, right? So it's still a programming language. So at some level, it gets technical. And I know a lot of programmers will possibly hate it because you can't write stuff that's really, really non-verbose, because the primary guiding principle of this is that someone who needs to be able to read it and be able to kind of guess what it does. Now, they may not follow every piece of it, but they should be able to, especially at like the broadest of scales, know what they're getting into, right? So a contract says, I'm a contract. I take the following set of messages, right? Because it's a smart thing. It's like you got to communicate with it. But it says, I'm looking for these sets of communications. Anything that isn't these communications, I'm just going to ignore and reject. And if I get this communication and if it's valid, you'll get this in return. So if I have a message that I'm expecting, like buy tokens, right? You can expect at the end for me to do a token transaction, right? And then you can dive into details of like how much that token costs and stuff like that, right? But when you read it, that in relatively like Englishy words, like there's a token transaction, a buy tokens message, and then I return a transaction succeeded. Here's your tokens. Make sense?
I love that. A clear cut, just this
exactly.
This is how what you're supposed to do. And then if there's a need to go look it up, there's an option to go look up in the back details, but just straight out the bat, it's something that everyone can read, digest, and get working on.
Yeah, and of course, someone who's malicious could try and hide. I can't fix human nature, but I can try and make it as transparent as I possibly can. And then the second step to me, like in this world, if you're in code land, we have linters. And what a linter does is it looks at code and tells you if the style and setup of it just looks kind of horrible. And what those do would be to help catch weaselly contracts, right? So if you have a contract that's just kind of set up funky, eventually my goal, like this is my like long, like years in advanced vision, there'll be tools that you can point at a contract and say, is this contract written in a way that's meant to be kind of confusing, right? Like we have tools like that that can help us detect that someone wrote a contract that seems kind of fishy. Make sense?
Like a bot lawyer.
Like a bot lawyer. Like it's like, you know what? This contract on the surface looks like this, but according to our technical analysis, it's more complicated than it should be. Or this contract does something that looks a lot like this well-known set of contracts. Why didn't they just use that generic contract? Maybe it should be looked at more carefully because they're being fishy, right? Things like that. So I don't want to just enable smart contracts. I want to enable smartness about smart contracts and design choices. So I'm going to continue working on that. And then when I got it far enough along, I'll probably do like a more official presentation and start shopping. But I think that if we really want to bring about like the new world order where we make things better for everyone by peer-to-peer and honest and fair, we need the best parts of programming where we rely on it doing what it says it's going to do, right? Like the code can't lie to you. And we need the best parts of normal contracts where they can be understood and evaluated and, you know, judged, right, for their fairness and everything else by normal people, right? Like if you pick up a contract and it says, you know, I will give you $20 for your house, you're like, that's bullshit, right? And if you pick up a normal contract wall of legal text and you don't know what it means, like you shouldn't have to sign it, but often you do. But if you had a computer that said this contract is fishy, then maybe people wouldn't sign those contracts. You know, there would be like competition for the clearest, most fair contract. And I would like to have that best of all worlds.
Right. You wouldn't have to hire a lawyer to read that contract for you.
Exactly.
So that was one of the big things with the DAO hack was like, or with the DAO in general. And something that I realized after the DAO happened was, you know, I'm not a coder. So I basically have to go off of the fact that this is open source. And if there were bugs, some human doing a good deed would have fixed it, you know? And if I could read that myself, well, that changes the game a lot. So, something simple that people can read, you know. Like I looked at the outline of yours and, you know, you said, go try to read some Solidity code. And I've tried to read some Solidity code in the past, but
you could read it. Well, we call it handshake, but you could read that, right? You could tell what it was doing.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So see, like, that's where we are.
Yeah, that beauty of it.
Our advisors include one of the top information science professors in America. And once I'm done with this, he was my professor in grad school, and this is exactly the type of stuff that he thinks is cool. And so I'm going to be taking this to him and seeing if we can really try to bring this to the masses, because like this is the type of stuff that gets me excited, like things that I actually could make the world a little bit better. And moreover, can bring technology to people. Like the last 30 years, technology has made people who are in technology way better off, but it's also led to job losses, and it's led to a disempowering of people who are not technologists. And by for people, I feel like we can re-empower them.
Oh, that was beautiful. Beautifully said. See, I was going to say something, but you totally just like nailed that. You should remember that for when you get like a Nobel Peace Prize along with Fuzzy and you guys are giving your speech, so you can one up him on that speech day with us. That was perfect.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So stay tuned for that. We think it could be a real game changer. We really want to make the new world a reality. I mean, everybody in this team really believes in just ending the kind of controlling Orwellian stuff that is the modern world. So we're just doing our part.
Yeah, I think that's how not just this team, but I think that's how a lot of people ended up with such a fascination for blockchain technology.
Yep.
You see the potential for it, and then you go, oh, wait a minute, we can look at this a little different, and all it has to do is catch on, and people need to be able to understand it. So,
Blockchain has the power to change the world, and it will. And then Crypto Hippie, did you want to talk about any Peerity bounty systems or the Bitcoin bounty system at all?
Yeah, well, so last time we were on here, we were talking about gearing up to start the Bitcoin Talk bounty system. And that is live and running, and I just posted a link to our and post in there. And so if you are interested in earning some peer, there's plenty of peer to be earned there. Things like translations are a big one. We've been getting a lot of requests for translations. Apple Chris has been helping out with that as well. I've never ran a bounty campaign, and so we brought somebody on to do it. And the Bitcoin Talk bounty itself, which is a bit different than than what we were offering to the Beyond Bitcoin community, which was whale share, upvotes, and rewarding in that way. And so with this, you'll actually be able to earn peer tokens, which will be good for peer tokens in the future. So you'll be able to start with a little more stake than everybody else. Good way to get a step ahead of the game. So I posted the link in there. I don't know. Has anybody here done any of the bounties?
Raise his hand. I made a commercial. I can't remember if it's one of the bounties. I think it is. But I encourage everyone to do the bounties, whether it's writing an article, taking some pictures, doing commercials, whatever it is that you do to get the Peerity name out there. And earning Peerity for doing things like this is awesome. And again, you're going to be feeling really stupid that you had the chance to earn Peerity, by working for them. And then, later in life, they're much more expensive now. So take the time to work for Peerity. Write those articles. Don't just blog about yourself.
Yeah, it's all something that 100 peer right now. What is that really worth to anybody right now? About 15 to 20 cents.
That's money on the table, man. Yo, I'll tell you, in a third world country, that's a couple dollars, I think, or at least $50.
It's why we're in Southeast Asia, man. Cheap to live. But yeah, so you can earn what could come a lot of money later on down the road, as I'm sure all of you guys know and have been watching the markets for as long as you've been in crypto. And the other thing is we've now, I believe, got the Whalebot running in our Discord. That was Alex P. Morris that came up with that, I believe, right?
Yeah, shout out to the Morris Master.
The Morris Master. The Forrest Master. But yeah, this does a lot of and also there's another one that popped up on the show, which I was really excited to hear about last week, called Looking for Niche. And Brenn, like this, Looking for Niche pairs up people of like-minded interests within Discord. And so you can search for people and you can earn a token called Looking for Niche. So
shout out to Robin Hunt for that one. He created the Looking for Niche.
That's Robin Hunt.
Yeah, he created that. It's a wonderful project in which you go in and you type in a niche, and whoever else typed in that niche, you get their name. Good stuff, everybody.
Yeah, it's really it's one of the many things and basic functions of what Peerity is being designed to do as well. So, trying to pair up like-minded people and get them together and reward them for being active within those groups. So it was something that I was really excited to see on Beyond Bitcoin last week. I think he won 1,000 Beyond Bit as well.
Philosophist. I'm pretty sure I didn't say that name right. And yeah, he did win a lot of Beyond Bits. So shout out to Robin Hood. Philosophist says, and I'm terrible with saying things, but would you pay us in Peerity to post about Peerity? That's how the bounty campaign works. And Brenn responded with Peerity, but yes. Okay, there was a spelling thing. I didn't need to say that. But yes, that's how the bounty campaign works, guys. You do work, you write about Peerity, you spread the love, you spread the knowledge, and guess what? You get paid.
Yep. You just set bounties for different tasks, and anybody's welcome to go out and create those, or fill those tasks, do those tasks, and you will be rewarded with peer token. So yeah, it's exciting stuff, man. We're really just blown away at the times that we're in right now, and to be in this Peerity thing while all of crypto is going on is it's an amazing feeling, and I'm sure that's all why you guys are here as well. Just because being part of the crypto communities it's a niche thing, but it's going more mainstream. We're seeing it get bigger, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And last night was a very historical moment because it was last night for us, but it was a historical moment in Bitcoin because the big argument that's been going on for how many years now. They finally made a move to stop that argument, and now it's about who's going to mine on what chain. So we'll see what happens. But the price was up there for a bit today. I'm sure you guys all have a bit of Bitcoin Cash now.
Shout out to Bitcoin, who was nice enough to give us free money stimulus package. I have my own speculation on that. I honestly think that Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash are going to work in unison. Bitcoin Cash is more for the non-Bitcoin maximalist, everyday person who's not really investing but spending Bitcoin on everyday things. As to where Bitcoin is going to be for those hardcore Bitcoin lovers who don't mind the long transaction time, whatever. They're just in love with Bitcoin. Hope that goes in, so they become a competing factor, or rather like a dollar bill or something, right? Which one's easier to use in whatever demographic that it's being used in.
Yeah, one will be more store of value, one will be more medium of exchange, possibly.
Savings and checking account.
See that.
And savings and checking account, which is a good point out. And if that's the case, then I don't really see Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin like falling or dropping too hard, as long as they complement each other and the two communities can work in unison. I mean, because now they both got what they want, right? One has their cash and the other one has their coins. So now they can work on those and then also try to see together in unison or in parallel to make the whole crypto space a lot better for everyone that's coming into it, right? In hopes.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, Bitcoin itself was the trial, and it just kind of stuck around, and it's very impractical to have transaction speeds of 10 to 45 minutes.
I don't know. I kind of like waiting an hour for my money to come through. It gives me something else to do other than wait for my money.
Oh man, have you been to the Bitcoin ATM?
Oh man, I wouldn't even try. Like just transferring from
I wouldn't either.
To my Coinbase is a headache.
Yeah, Coinbase is it's Coinbase.
Now, with that
It
being
can take
said,
some time.
is there anything else that you would like to touch on as far as Peerity is concerned, Mr. Crypto Hippie?
Watch out for we're gonna be doing a big marketing push here coming up soon. And right now, like we were talking about, is a great time to get a hold of those pure tokens early. And once the actual crowdfunding for quite a bit more, they'll start at 20 cents and then each week go up 2 cents as long as the goal per week is met in sales. So so there's opportunity, and with that money we do a big marketing push, and we're going to be hitting up some different expos. Going to one in Bangkok this weekend, and it's a shame Brenn's not going to be there because he lives in Bangkok. But then we have in beginning of October 4th, I believe, is Barcelona, and then in Santa Clara, which is Silicon Valley, basically. That will be end of November. So I believe that starts on the 30th. So we'll be doing big marketing push, and we hope to have a product ready to roll and show by then, and get people using it at those shows.
Awesome.
That's good.
Well,
yeah. And for
with all
anybody
that
that
information,
yeah.
I was gonna say, with all that information, you guys mark down your calendars all the places that they will be, so you guys can like link up and say hi, because that'll be fun. I think me and Beans will be at one in Spain to say hi to Peerity, so that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, man, we're really looking forward to that. Really looking forward to. I don't know. I think what you're doing is great too. And as being an up and coming project, the Peerity is, and we're here to stay. It'd be great if you could document it from the beginning. I think it'd be a good thing for you and for us. And I think we'll most team there. Brenn, will you be there?
Of course, he'll be there because I'm gonna be there, and if Brenn's not there,
I sure hope so. With my life, it's stuff happens. I'm in London, and I didn't think I was gonna be in London, and I found out, oh, by the way, you're in London in like 3 days, and I was like, fuck, all right.
Well, we'll keep your schedule loose because you're busy.
Yeah, but I try to be as many places as I can. So we'll see. I know that I won't be at the Bangkok, but we got some other ones coming up, and I'm really looking for like Barcelona. I really hope to be there. By the way, do we have anybody who's in here? Because I was thinking that while I'm already all the way in Europe, I might hop by Berlin. So if anyone knows anybody in Berlin who wants to show me around, that would be awesome.
I haven't been beyond my own backyard, so.
Oh shit, Beans is in Ireland. You know what's funny, dude? Like I'm in Bangkok, and some of my friends in Bangkok are so funny. Like that I'm meeting people from Ireland and Bangkok, and then I go to London, and the people I'm working with are from.
Oh, the cultural differences are crazy.
I'm like, this is just weird.
Living in global times, global citizens, man.
The synergy.
Right.
Like it.
Now, with that being said, I think that wraps up the main talks for Peerity. Thank you, everyone, for joining the Peerity Hangout and learning a little bit about what Peerity is going to be doing and updating. Thank you, Brenn, for showing up and giving us all that good information, and Crypto Hippie for always taking the time to give us that good information. We love you both for that, and we can't wait for Peerity to just be the best. If anyone has any questions or comments or concerns, you can nicely DM Crypto Hippie or Brenn. They're busy, so keep that in mind. If you don't, well, then just invest in Peerity. It's going to be something great. And this has been Sir Lunch the host.